Hi class, welcome. Professor Pronte here, and in this video we're going to talk all about price ceilings. In a lot of our previous videos we've been using supply and demand where the big focus is in trying to explain prices, right? In other words, determine and tell why the price of some particular good is what it is. Why does gas cost $3.50 a gallon? Why does milk cost $2.50? Why does anything cost what it costs when we rely on a market to provide that good? And so supply and demand are most commonly used, for us at least, to explain those prices. We're transitioning though with this video by starting to evaluate prices. In addition to saying something about what the price is, we also sometimes care about whether or not that price is a good one. Think to yourself right now about prices that you deal with that maybe you think are too high. I bet this is a really easy task. There's a lot of stuff that we buy that costs a lot, and you think, you know what, there's something wrong with that. That price is too high. It's not fair to buyers. I wish that maybe someone would do something to bring down those prices. I'm going to show you right now that we have such a policy. The policy in question for us is called a price ceiling. A price ceiling then, as a definition, this is when the government comes in and says that there's a threshold, and any price that is above this line is against the law. Cannot happen, right? If you're at the line or below, all good, go for it, but we're saying you can't go above this. So your formal definition then is that a price ceiling is a government mandated maximum price that can be charged. I'll put that definition right underneath the video in our module as well. Good way to remember how this works is to recognize that the ceiling that we have in any room is the highest spot in the room. With a price ceiling, it's the highest that we're going to allow a price to go. All right. So I bet so far you're thinking that this price ceiling idea doesn't sound so bad. And that's because we're thinking of it from the perspective of a consumer. Yeah, lower prices are good for the buyer, but it's not so good if you're somebody selling the good. I'm also going to show you that in addition to sellers being made worse off, there's some other unintended consequences, side effects that take place whenever we have a price ceiling. And so to understand this, I'm going to try to draw this right here on the board right behind me. So I'm going to scoot over here, make sure you guys can still see me. What we want to do to start our analysis is to draw in a graph showing supply and demand of some product. So let's do so right now. All right, so let's see here. We have our graph looking just like that. I think you guys can see that. Okay. We're going to have the price on the vertical axis, just like we always do. And then we're going to have the quantity of the good being measured horizontally, side to side. Okay. It's kind of hard to draw on this board. All right, let's draw in the downward sloping demand curve, showing the behavior of buyers. This is going to give us the amount of the good that buyers are willing and able to buy at all kinds of different prices. And then I'm sure you guys remember from earlier videos that the supply curve shows us the behavior of firms, and it gives us this direct relationship between the price and the quantity supplied. All right, we're almost there. Instead of just leaving it as a generic case of supply and demand, let's suppose we're talking about some particular good. I like to use gas, right? Because that's one that a lot of us think is too expensive. So let's say we're talking here about the market for gasoline. We'll put it just like that, okay? And there's going to be some equilibrium price, P star, right here. You guys remember that. Let's suppose that the price of gasoline is $3.50. And at that price, let's suppose that the equilibrium quantity, the amount of gas bought and sold, Let's say it's 100,000 units. Okay. So all of that just to set up the problem for ourselves. So to go further then, we want to introduce a price ceiling. And think back to a few minutes ago, we remember that that's when the government says that the price cannot go up above some particular threshold. If we just let buyers and sellers do their thing, the price will be $350. But we want to pick a price ceiling that's lower than that to show what we want to show on this graph here. Let's say that the price ceiling is at, I don't know, $2 per gallon. So on my graph here, at this height of $2, the way that you'll model a price ceiling is as a horizontal line. So draw a horizontal line coming straight over from 2. Okay, and what is that line representing for us? This is the price ceiling. Okay. I have messy writing ordinarily, but especially on this little unbalanced board here. Okay, so then, what does this line mean? It says then that if this is a price ceiling, any price below this is against the law, any price below this is A-okay and is permissible. Anything above $2, though, is no longer allowed. So if the price was $3.50, that's what people were charging, the price needs to come down to $2 to be in compliance with the law. So then, gas is now going to cost $2 per gallon. Sounds good, right? Notice how both buyers and sellers are going to respond, though, right? You read over horizontally from this price of 2. The first curve that you run into is that supply curve, isn't it? Right? And so when the sellers are forced to sell their product at this price that's below the equilibrium, this low price to them, they respond predictably. Sellers respond by offering less of the good. And so instead of 100,000 units of gasoline being available for sale, instead the quantity supplied, because it's off the supply curve, is some number less than that. Right? So let's put some number in there so that we can wrap our head around this. Let's say it's 60,000 units. Right? My model is telling me that if the price is mandated to be $2 rather than $3.50, then there's only 60,000 gallons that are available. Buyers, in contrast, right, the law of demand tells us that when they can get a low price for some good, they wish to buy more of it. So if this price is 2, the demand curve is going to show me that now we have, let's say, 130,000 as our quantity. 130,000 as our quantity. Get my camera going. There we go. Our 130,000 is our quantity demanded. Okay, and so I'm hoping that you guys are putting together right now the problem that can develop whenever we use a price ceiling, right? You put in place this law designed to help out buyers by bringing down the price of something that's maybe more fair to them. But the unintended consequence of a price ceiling is that it leads to a shortage. This is a really testable idea, and this is one of the big things you should get from this video. When price ceilings are put into place in this fashion, it's going to cause a shortage of the good. Lots of people trying to buy the good. 130,000 is the quantity demanded, relative to only 60,000 units that are available for sale. The quantity supplied, we have a shortage of 70,000 units. Okay, and so we can see then that we need to be quite careful when introducing price controls like this. You could make an argument that some buyers who are able to get gasoline at this lower price are better off. But if you've got less of the good actually being exchanged, then we're missing out on some of those mutually beneficial transactions. All right. As an extension here, notice that the price ceiling that we're thinking about in the problem behind me is set below that equilibrium. I've done that on purpose. Anytime you have a price ceiling set in this range of the graph, down below that equilibrium, you would say then that that price ceiling is binding. And what that means is that it's set in a way such that that equilibrium price needs to change in order to get right with the law, right? If you were charging $350 and we say the highest that you can charge is $2, you've got to bring it down, okay? In contrast, if the price ceiling were set up above here, if the price ceiling was $10 per gallon, saying it's against the law to charge more than $10 a gallon for gas. Well, so long as firms already are not charging $10 per gallon, there's no change that needs to take place in order to be consistent with that law. And so therefore, price ceilings that are set up near the top of our graph, above the equilibrium price, are described as being non-binding. The reason why this is something that I mentioned to you is because a lot of times students will think that the difference between a price ceiling and a price floor, which you'll learn about in a later video, is not whether the line here is drawn above or below that equilibrium. Instead, the difference between a price ceiling and a price floor is the interpretation of that line. Is this line that you've drawn into your graph representing a maximum price or a minimum price? All right, guys, that's all for this one. I will see you in the next video.